Hey guys, so today we're going to be building pools. I'm going to be building pools for a 40-gallon breeder. I'm going to be making a tank for some babies. So I just wanted to go over how I build my pools. Depending on the size of your tank, what size pools you'll be able to fit inside your tank. It all depends on that. So now I'm going to be using these mini critter keepers. These you can get them on Amazon or even at Walmart, your local pet store. A lot of those places do have them. You can use the 1-gallon critter keeper. I do have them in several of my other tanks, depending on the size of your tank and how much room you have to make your pools. So I'm going to be using these mini critter keepers. You're going to need one for your fresh water, and one for your saltwater pools. You're going to need I'm using filters. These are bubbler filters, sponge filters. They are fantastic. I use them in all my tanks, even in my biggest build. They are fantastic. You only need to cycle them for a few days in your pools. I like to cycle mine for 48 hours before I actually put them inside my tanks. We don't have marine crabs, so you really don't need to worry too much about cycling them. This is just, a lot of our crabs are pretty much toe dippers, and they do not spend their time in the water all the time. So filtering them, your pools are very important, just because it'll remove the ammonia, heavy metals, and the chlorine. So these filters are fantastic. When you are going to use these for the first time, I suggest you rinse them out. I will link it in the bio so that you can purchase them as well. I'm sorry, in the description, so that you can purchase them. These do come in like a 3-pack, which is fantastic, and you only need to change them out once a year. They don't create lots of humidity, which is perfect. Now, this does come with a little plastic top that is usually over this piece here. That is for the tubing, is to protect the tubing, but it causes a lot of splash. So you can just pull it out, which is perfect, and just put them inside your pools just like this, and they'll fully submerge, which is perfect. So I rinse them out the first time I use them, and then put them in the pool, cycle them for 24 to 48 hours before putting them inside my tank, and they're set to go. And then you will need some ramps. This is just light diffuser. You can find at Home Depot or Lowe's, different colors. I'm using the white on this, and then just craft mesh over it. You cut it to the size that you want, and I zip tied them to make a ramp. So one side is going to go into the substrate, and the other side into the pools, so the crabs can have full access in and out of the pools without getting stuck. Now, you're going to need something for friction at the bottom of the pools. I do suggest either rocks. You can use seashells or even stones. I like to color code my stones so I know which one is fresh and which one is salt water when I do fill them up. With bubblers, with filtered bubblers like these, you don't need to prime every 48 hours like you would if you have standing still water, or just bubblers. So with the filters, because the water is being cycled constantly, you don't need to do that. So all you need to do is prime whenever you're topping off your pools. So once you have you see that your water level is going down, that you're going to add more water to your pools, then that's when you would prime, which is fantastic. And with these filters, with filtered pools, you only need to change out the water, clean things out once a month, or depending on how it looks. So it goes, just go off of what your pools look like. If they look dirty, then change them out as often as you need. As long as it's clean, you can leave it. Sometimes it'll last longer, depending on if you have molting crabs. They don't use the pools during that time, so you don't need to go and change them out so often. You're also going to need a water pump, depending on what style of pumps you're going to be using to filter your pools. This is one that only has one outlet. So if you have one with one outlet, you're going to need plenty of piping. You're going to need a regulator valve so you can control the water pressure, and you will attach the main hose to the hole. Then you're going to need to cut another piece of hose, which is from the regulator to the T-shape, and then you're going to add piping for both of your pools, which will be like this. So this is what I have attached to this right now, which has a knob to regulate the pools, which is fantastic. So I'm not going to be using this other pump, but this is what I have. It has the tube piping, which is fantastic, and then I just let it attach it to the back. And then you're going to add your pipings, your tubes into the back where the hinge is, if you have a hinge lid, and then you're just going to bring them down the corner, okay, down the corner to where you're going to be putting your pools. Okay, here you can see I have the tubing coming in from the back of the lid all the way down. You can just pinch it on a corner. You can use suction cups with a zip tie to hold it together on the corner, which is what I have there. I have right here, I have a suction cup, and I zip tied the tubing to the suction cup, and it's against the glass, so it doesn't come apart. It just stays in that section. So this is where I'm going to be placing my pool. So the tubing is going to be right there, so it goes straight into the filters. Now I did cut a piece of egg crate. This is what we call it, but it's actually called light diffuser. Like I mentioned, you can get this at Home Depot, Lowe's, hardware stores, a big sheet, long big sheet, and you can just cut them. You could use, this is the same thing that you can use for your rams for in and out of the pools. And I put it at the bottom where my pools are going to be sitting, just because this will give this will help if you have any molting crabs. Crabs, as we all know, they do love to go underneath the pools. They love to molt where the moisture is, and it usually happens underneath pools. So putting this underneath is fantastic, because when you're going to do your pool changes, you can just remove them without having any issues and worried if you have a molter underneath. If you don't want to use egg crate like this, you can use locker shelves that you can just bring your pools off of the substrate, so they can be hanging up higher. It all depends on your space and what you're going to be, what do you have to work with inside your tank. So I'm going to be putting my pools side by side. Some people like to do them side by side, or you can do them at opposite of the tank. It all depends on, like I mentioned, your space that you have. I like to keep it side by side. It's easy for me. It's easy for the crabs as well. They don't have to go far, but they do love, to explore. So either way, it works just fine. So I just placed them on top of the shelf of the egg crate for support. And then I'm going to attach my filters to the tubing. Okay guys, so I attached the filters to the tubing of the bubblers, and I'm going to put something at the bottom of my pools just so the crabs have easy access into the pools and out of the pools without having any issues. So you want something for friction. Some people use live rock, depending on the size of your pools, what space you're going to be working with. You can use live rock. You can use stones like this. I'm using color coded stones just because that's what works for me. Just so I know what is fresh and what is saltwater pool. So whenever I add to it, I don't mix the waters. So this is what works for me. So you can use seashells. You can use flat seashells. Seashells rock are great. Live river rocks are good just because they do help stabilize the pH balance inside your water. Depending on your location, it doesn't hurt to add a few seashells inside your pools. The crabs love it. They'll pick at it as well. So it's a good plus. You can do that, or you can use just river rocks. All depends on what you want to do. Some people use live sands at the bottom, depending on how big pools you're going to be using. Usually for the 2.5 gallon pools is what we put live sand into, but I'm going to put the stones inside. Okay guys, so I attached the bubblers, the filters to the bubblers, and I also added the ramps. I like to stick them in a little into the substrate, not much, just about 1/2 inch into the substrate so the crabs don't knock them over. And I also added the stones to the bottom. I have them attached to the side. I also add some grass. You can use a piece of grass so that when the crabs get into the pools, they don't bring the sand into it. You can cut a piece of boxwood instead of the grass and just place it there, just to use as grass, so the crabs do clean their feet before they get into the pools, to avoid having to clean out your pool so often. It works very well, and it'll keep the ramps in place as well. Like I mentioned, I like to color code them. I did add 1 drop of prime. Each of these pools hold about 1 quart of water, so it's only 1 drop of prime. They're great and very spacious. The crabs have plenty of space to fully submerge. I also added the grass so that the crabs can clean their feet before getting in the pool. It'll just minimize the having to change out the pool so often. But this is pretty much it. The pools will cycle about 48 hours or so. If you guys are worried about cycling, you can purchase a test kit to test your water. But like I mentioned, our crabs are not marine crabs. But this is pretty much it. If you guys have any questions, please leave it in the comments, and please don't forget to subscribe.